Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's fantastic to see you all on such a busy afternoon in such a room filled to the gills. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this year's SIPA Global Mayors Forum and to thank you for coming to attend one of SIPA's really signature activities. This forum is an ongoing lecture series that examines urban policy challenges confronting cities in the 21st century around the world. And we have established this forum to invite visionary and creative mayors who are leading these cities to come and share their experiences with us. And it's one of an important forum that we have here to promote cross-national collaboration, research, policy innovation, and really discussion about what is happening in cities led by innovative mayors around the world. We've been fortunate to have a number of leaders join us over the years. The Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, joined us one year, the Mayor of Karachi, Pakistan, a mayor from South Korea, from Hyderabad, India, and New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Today, SIPA has the pleasure of hosting Mayor Michael Nutter of Philadelphia, and thank you so much for being with us. Please join me in thanking him. I'd also like to acknowledge our own Mayor, David Dinkins, a treasured member of our faculty, as well as, I believe, former New York City Comptroller John Liu is here with us, both SIPA faculty members. Thank you. And I especially want to thank Esther Fuchs, who is really the creator of this forum, who has been the champion of it, who has cared about cities and the role of mayors in cities long before it became fashionable, and has done great scholarship on cities, who's served in city government, and who also directs at SIPA the Urban and Social Policy Concentration, is Professor of International and Public Affairs, and she has organized today's event. She will properly introduce Mayor Nutter, but thank you, Esther, for all the leadership you're showing in this area. Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody, and thank you, Dean, for that wonderful introduction to our forum and for those kind words about me. We are very lucky to have Dean Jano as our dean. Merritt Jano has an extraordinary global reach, which is only fitting for our global public policy school here at Columbia University, and her leadership has really been extraordinary for the past year and a half, and I really want to thank you personally for all that you've done in moving us in the direction that I think we need to move in, which is paying great attention to cities all over the globe. Thank you, Dean Jano, for your leadership. So as the Dean said, this is our 6th Global Mayors Forum, and I first want to thank our wonderful staff at SIPA here for helping to organize this event. Kevin and Joanne and Jesse and the students who have worked with them. We could not get this done. I'm really grateful for this fabulous turnout today. That's about you, Mayor Nutter. So we'll get to that in a moment. But a special welcome, as the Dean said, to our own Mayor Dinkins and our former Controller, John Liu, both who are faculty members here. There really is no other place, I believe, on the globe where you can come and learn from people who've spent their life in the university doing academic research and at the same time have at the leader of your classroom somebody like Mayor Dinkins or like Controller Liu teach you the realities of what really goes on out there and not just the theories that some of us wish went on out there. And Everybody knows how we feel about Mayor Dinkins, and we're just so grateful that you're here and teaching for us. And you're all very lucky, that's all I have to say. I also wanted to welcome a couple of my former colleagues from the Bloomberg administration. Bob Tierney's here, the former commissioner, landmarks commissioner, and John Crotty, who was an advisor to the mayor at City Hall. And if I skip anybody else, there's quite a few people from the not-for-profit world. Ruth, who runs Public Color, a most amazing not-for-profit organization. If you don't know it, Google it. And my Columbia colleagues and students, it's just really great to have everybody here. It's just a pleasure, and of course, oh God, Dr. Irwin Redlener, who runs the Children's Health Fund. Thank you, Irwin, for being here. So I probably made a mistake and left somebody out, but you'll all forgive me, right? I'm really just so pleased to introduce Mayor Michael Nutter today. And some of you may not know, but he's probably spending more time in New York City than he planned. I really was planning on embarrassing his daughter, Olivia. She's an undergraduate here at Columbia and a very remarkable young woman. But she is actually sick in bed today. Does that have something to do with you being in New York, Mayor Nutter? I think it was that big poster on College Walk that must have kind of blown her away and made her decide not to show up. But as everybody knows, you have just done an extraordinary job in Philadelphia, America's 5th largest city. Just a reminder that New York City is still the 1st largest city. But in truth, we have a lot to learn from Mayor Nutter. He's created an economic powerhouse with livable neighborhoods, and Philadelphia is really competing effectively among its peer global cities, including New York City. And there was that little victory getting the Democratic National Convention. A lot of people thought we actually planned this around the fact that Mayor Nutter and Philadelphia beat us out with the convention. Actually, they beat out the mayor's proposal, which centered on Brooklyn, and maybe that was the mistake. But, you know, when you have a mayor who thinks he comes from Brooklyn and not from New York City, maybe that's part of the problem. Okay, did I say that? You're not going to tell Mayor de Blasio, our SEPA alum, that I said that, are we? But we love Mayor de Blasio, or at least some people do around here. Anyway, there's no accident that Philadelphia is the success it is. Mayor Nutter began his 2nd term in 2012 and has set an aggressive agenda for improving high school graduation and college attainment rates, and in strengthening community policing through Philly Rising, which is a unique partnership that I know he will be talking about, and a nationally recognized Greenworks program, which is helping make Philadelphia become the greenest city in America. Since 2008, city government in Philadelphia has actually reduced usage by 7% and increased alternative energy usage citywide by up to 14%. Mayor Nutter has a 5-year plan that is not compromising a single police officer, firefighter, or sanitation worker, and he has been able to do that and close a $2.4 billion gap in his budget. So not only has he improved service delivery, but he's been fiscally responsible, very difficult for mayors today. He's dedicated his career to public service. He's been the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which is a nonpartisan organization of 1,300 U.S. cities, and he was just recently named Public Official of the Year by Governing Magazine in 2014. Mayor Nutter is a native Philadelphian and was educated at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, and he did choose to send his daughter to Columbia College, so we'll just put that on the table too. But I am really not just a big Philadelphia fan. I'm really a big Mayor Nutter fan, and I'm just so delighted you could come today and keynote our Global Mayors Forum here at SEPA. Welcome.
Professor Fuchs, thank you for that introduction. And in the fine tradition of politics, I only approved a part of that message that that the professor gave a little while ago. New York is tough. This is a really tough town. Wow. Well, I guess that's how you all do it up here. Dean Janow, thank you for your leadership here at Columbia, and certainly the urban and social policy component of Columbia and SEPA, to our good friend and leader, the Honorable David Dinkins, and I'm going to talk about the mayor in a second, but please recognize him one more time. Controller Liu and all of the various officials. This is seems to be a little bit of a New York mayor's reunion. We've got folks who served, Mayor Koch, obviously Mayor Dinkins is here. I don't know if there are any folks from the Giuliani administration, certainly the Bloomberg administration, including our own city representative and director of communications, Desiree Peterkin-Bell, who's here with me today, who worked with Mayor Bloomberg in his administration, and of course, all respect and praise due to my fellow mayor. You know, whenever you go into another mayor's town, I mean, I've had full clearance, I have a day pass, they know where I am, they know where I'm going, and you know, with all accommodation, but you know, don't get too comfortable and be out of town by midnight. No, seriously playing. Mayor de Blasio has been a great friend and is always very accommodating whenever I or other mayors come to town. Let me start with the first. Actually, you know, Olivia had a lot of options, fortunately for her. Very smart young lady, got that from her mom. And I think ultimately the decision was she wanted to be in a town where her father was not the mayor. And so it was very clear that pretty much she was not going to be in Philadelphia. And I fully supported that decision. It just gets to be a little much after a while, especially as you're moving into your college years. But she is loving it here. And I want to thank certainly Professor Fuchs and all of you for looking after her and helping her to grow into a great young woman that she is. New York City has provided tremendous leadership in a variety of ways all across the United States of America. And yes, it is still the largest city in the United States. And many of us look to New York in a variety of ways. I'm on the New York City website on a pretty regular basis. I read the speeches that both, during my time at least, that Mayor Bloomberg would give for his budget address. I have mine tomorrow, or Mayor de Blasio. There are a ton of ideas that come out of New York City, and many of us as mayors across the country pay attention to what's happening in New York City. You've had a history of some of the most incredible mayors, chief executive officers for mayors and cities all across the United States of America. When you talk about Mayor Koch, you talk about Mayor Dinkins, Mayor Giuliani, certainly Mayor Bloomberg, and now Mayor de Blasio. Again, many of us are fans of any number of these different mayors, and we learn from them. Mayors pay attention to what other mayors are doing. We borrow, if you will. We take sometimes. We try to give all due credit. But there are more than a few ideas in Philadelphia today that had their origin in New York City. And Mayor Bloomberg had me up when he made an announcement about the mortgage foreclosure crisis here in New York City. He basically utilized the idea that we had already developed in Philadelphia, invited me up for that announcement. So mayors understand, and we get along. We gather from time to time through the U.S. Conference of Mayors or other events and programs. The one thing we generally don't ask is how you're doing, because we already know. We're all pretty much in the same situation and boat. But I will tell you, as they say, once a mayor, always a mayor, and a person trying to provide leadership. So I'll tell you a little story, something that just happened a second ago. Mayor Dinkins is going to laugh. So I was in the green room, or they always call these rooms the green room, none of which are ever green, but that's a whole other story. And so I said, well, let me go to the second most important room in the building, which is the men's room down the hall. As I was going in, Mayor Dinkins was coming out. Hey, Mayor, how you doing? Some of the great conversations that take place in men's rooms, I can tell you, it's incredible. But we just exchanged pleasantries, and he said, Mayor, come on in, but I've got to go report that there's no towels in the men's room, and I need to let them know that. He's focused on getting stuff done, making things happen. He's on the case. Mayor Dinkins trying to make sure that there are towels in the men's room. That's a guy who's used to being in charge and knows how to get stuff done. Rich Greenwald is here from the city of Philadelphia as well, focused on issues of public safety in the city of Philadelphia, and I'll talk about some of our work. The last thing I want to mention is when you look at big cities all across the country, and a little bit about Philadelphia. We are the 5th largest city in America. We've had population growth for the first time in 60 years. In the 2010 census, the population growth actually started in about 2007, 2008. I came into office in 2008. We'll leave that at the level of coincidence on that regard. But we've had population growth actually every year since 2008, and then confirmed in the 2010 census. But it's gone up in 11, in 12, in 13, and we expect the same in 2014. Philadelphia is the largest city in America with an African-American mayor. I'll take that. And of the top 5 cities in the country, you can look at the top 10 for that matter, but the top 5 cities in America, and Mayor Dinkins certainly is well aware of this, they all experienced their first African-American mayor in the 80s and early 90s. Mayor Dinkins in New York, Tom Bradley in Los Angeles, Harold Washington the same year as Philadelphia, 1983, with Harold Washington in Chicago, and shortly after that, Mayor W. Wilson Goode in Philadelphia, and Lee Brown in Houston. Of those 5 cities, Philadelphia is the only one of those 5 that has had a second African-American mayor, and I'm actually the 3rd. And so these are just points of information and points of reference, but a bit of a perspective and context on what's going on across the United States of America. Most of our big cities in the country, heavily leaning Democrat, but we've kind of gone through this period, the 80s and the 90s, and the public is still trying to figure out what's going on. And then subsequently, of course, the first African-American president of the United States of America who won the election in 2008. But let me get back to mayors. Mayors, in my view at least, more than just about any other elected officials at virtually any level, have some of the most direct impact on their citizens' lives on a day-to-day basis. And that means, quite frankly, that we also have a daily opportunity to improve their quality of life. Today I want to talk with you a little bit about Philadelphia and what our team has been doing, the approach that we've taken over the last 7+ years. I'm in my 8th year as mayor, and we have a 2-term limit in Philadelphia. I've teased Mayor Bloomberg a number of times. I just didn't have the financial capacity to do that charter change thing. So, it is what it is. I've got my 2 terms, and so in January of next year, I will have to leave office. But I have a lot of time left and a lot of work to do. So when I came into office on that first day at the inauguration, I set some pretty ambitious goals for the city of Philadelphia. If you can't measure it, as you well know, you can't manage it, and you can't It's not about comparing yourself, but it really is about measuring the quality of your work, keeping the team focused, and having everyone moving in the same right direction. We've had some notable successes, and certainly we've had some challenges since 2008. For all the meetings and discussions and the transition teams and all the advice that I received, no one actually predicted that we would have a world economic crisis, which had actually started in December of 2007. No one told us until September of 2008. I really, really wish they had kind of mentioned that. We'd have probably made some different decisions. But I said that Philadelphia, I said this during the campaign, I started running in the 2007 primary for Philadelphia. I resigned my position in City Council in June of 2006 to get ready for the May primary. I said that Philadelphia could be safer, could be smarter, could be healthier, could be cleaner and greener as a city. And quite honestly, I talked a great deal about public safety, and I talked about it in the context of New York City. And here's where I want to talk about the mayor a little bit. 20 years ago, New York City had 2,200 murders a year. 20 years ago. And it was because of the leadership provided by Mayor Dinkins, who was then, of course, succeeded by 2 more mayors, that today, and without getting into all the controversy, because there's always controversy in any of these cities, but that 20-some-odd years later, you would have, at the time I was running, about 400 to 500 murders a year. That level of reduction. And at the same time, in Philadelphia, unlike most other major cities in the mid-2000s, while most other cities, their homicide rate was going down, unfortunately, in Philadelphia, ours was going up. And I said, if New York City, biggest city in the country, an hour away from us, can have that level of dramatic impact, a 75% reduction in homicides in this city, that should be our goal, that we should set our standard that high. And so on my first day, I said that Philadelphia, we had to reduce our homicide rate by 30 to 50% in the next 5 to 6 years. But it was the work of Mayor Dinkins, for which he gets virtually no credit, in my view, for starting that process and keeping that focus about the issue of public safety. And so let me say now publicly, on behalf of 1.5 million people and growing in the city of Philadelphia, Mayor Dinkins, thank you for being so focused on issues of public safety. Thank you. And later on in this talk, I'll tell you about what's been going on in Philadelphia and on the public safety area. So I want to talk about some of our progress and things that we've been working on. And it starts with really comprehensive and high-level municipal policy reform that Philadelphia has needed for a long time. Over the last 7 years, we've experienced a development resurgence as we attract more businesses to our city. We've improved our standing in the global marketplace by bringing high-profile and large events to the city of Philadelphia. And our population has increased by more than 53,000 residents in the last few years. I took the position on day one that Philadelphia should, in fact, be the #1 green city in the United States of America. Now, that's a pretty bold statement by a brand new mayor on the first day on the job. It's that much bolder given the fact that we had no plan to be the #1 green city in the United States of America because it was the first day. But a year later, in the spring of 2009, we released GreenWorks Philadelphia, which is our plan to make Philadelphia that great green city. And it's not just because of the environmental benefits, but everything that we do in one way, shape, or form is actually focused around the issue of jobs. And so I love the environment. There are tremendous environmental benefits from the plan that we've laid out. But more oftentimes than not, there's also a job connected to these kinds of improvements, these kinds of impacts. And that's also a part. And so energy reduction, eliminating wasteful practices in our government that saves money, saving on electricity, changing out light bulbs, having smart offices, turning the office lights off, recycling programs, In the early 2000, 2008, 2009 time period, people were actually paying us for their recyclable materials. So we're saving the environment. Virtually none of our waste stream goes to landfills anymore. Virtually none of it. And most of the recycling is done, of course, by private companies that had to actually put on a third shift because we went from a 6% recycling rate to a nearly 20% recycling rate, which they had to hire more people, invest in more plant, and actually improve service to the citizens of our great city. Now, GreenWorks lays out 164 different initiatives, of which we've either started and or completed 160 of them, now going into 2015. 15 measurable targets and 5 topic areas: energy, environment, equity, economy, and engagement. We knew that making Philadelphia one of the top green cities in America would be a long process that would require infrastructure changes and natural resource management and the creation of an Office of Sustainability. Created that shortly after coming into office. And that office not only does the research, but also helps to implement the new policy, not just from the office. But I said to all of our department heads, every one of you have a role to play in sustainability and improving the environment and helping to make Philadelphia the green city. And so it's infused through every department and agency in our city government, not just that one office, helping us to find creative solutions to some of the city's most pressing sustainability concerns. In the November elections just passed, Philadelphians amended our Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to make the Office of Sustainability a permanent office in our city government. I created it by executive order. Executive orders, of course, are only as good as the pen of the person that's holding it. It is now a permanent office. Philadelphians agreed by overwhelming numbers that this was an important initiative, an important effort that needed to be permanent, regardless of who the next mayor might be. The GreenWorks plan is, in fact, nationally and internationally recognized, and I've had the opportunity to promote this work, and our great sustainability director, who works with other sustainability directors all across the United States, Catherine Gajewski. And I want to praise her for her dedication and hard work, and obviously the successes that we've seen. Since 2009, we've had a lot of progress. And some of the most notable successes are, in fact, in, as I mentioned, waste reduction, energy efficiency, stormwater management, and access to healthy foods and more green open spaces across our city. As I mentioned, nearly all of our municipal waste is now diverted from landfills and goes to waste-to-energy and recycling programs. We started a benchmarking program for large, privately owned and our own city-owned buildings. This program helps our building owners understand what they can do to reduce their energy usage. It also makes it easier for building owners to track their progress and energy usage in relationship to comparable buildings. And there's right now a bit of a competition going on between the private sector, large building owners who have set up a group of buildings, and then we're in a battle with them for many of our large municipal buildings, our big energy users, to see who can have the greatest energy reductions. At the beginning of this year, we launched a visual mapping tool to make the benchmarking information that much more accessible and open to the public. We created more than 100 food access sites that have been established all across the city to make sure that healthier food options are available in our low-income neighborhoods. We've become a more walkable and bikeable city, and we're increasing green spaces and the planting of trees. We have over 500 miles of bike lanes, obviously going in both directions, all across Philadelphia. And later this spring, I believe in April, we will finally launch our bike share program, which is called Indigo. Much research, and we were fortunate to receive a grant from a foundation, making Philadelphia's bike share program the first bike share program in the country that does not require the users to have a credit card. Our Philadelphia Parks and Recreation program, they've planted over 100,000 trees since 2009 through the Tree Philly initiative. We literally give away trees in the city. It's helped us to increase our tree canopy, and so when we do flyovers of the city, you want to see the amount of area that is covered by trees, and our goal is to get above 30%. Benefits, of course, of having a large tree canopy, including lowering the overall temperature in Philadelphia, helps, of course, to clean the air, reduce air pollution, and Studies have shown from that school that should not be mentioned, but I will, from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, studies have shown that actually tree-lined streets raise property values in many, many neighborhoods all across the city and naturally helps with stormwater management. We're doing a lot around, you talk about stormwater management, and because of the aging infrastructure of our sewer system, the great thing about Philly, I'm sure it's the same in New York, great old cities. It's wonderful. One of the challenges, great old cities. And we have old stormwater management systems. But by planting more trees and creating more open space, we use the natural environment to help with stormwater runoff through our Green City Clean Waters Initiative, which is also a groundbreaking program with the City of Philadelphia. It's one of the few big cities in the country that is not operating with a consent decree and mandates from the EPA. We signed an accountability agreement and told them these are the things that we will do. You will hold us accountable. We will give you reports on a regular basis. And it really has changed the dynamic of the relationship between Philadelphia and the EPA. One of the ways that we're addressing this concern is also by creating literally more greened acres all across the city of Philadelphia. And that program is designed such that the land in question is designed to capture the first inch of rainwater before it enters our overburdened, at times, sewer systems when we have heavy rainfall in our city. We've greened 323 acres, up from 102 just in 2012. The Philadelphia Water Department is experimenting with a variety of permeable surfaces to determine the most efficient methods to implement citywide. We have a couple streets in the city of Philadelphia that the surface from curb to curb is completely permeable. And so you can literally pour a gallon of water right on the ground. It will disappear right into the roadway. And we're creating those streets. We have a parking lot out by one of our water department plants that we're looking at 6 different applications in the same space. So we get kind of a controlled environment, but looking at different materials to utilize all across the city, again, helping us with stormwater management and related issues. Another example of this is our big tank that we use to store and filter stormwater runoff in the Manayunk section of Philadelphia. Any of you from Philadelphia, that's an area that regularly floods in heavy rain events. The water will literally go into this huge tank underground. You cannot see it. On top of it, through a partnership between the Water Department and Parks and Recreation, they built a brand new recreation center with more open space and green space. But you would never know that there is this tank that holds millions and millions of gallons of water right underneath the ground. Let me talk about the most serious issue challenging Philadelphia, other than issues, of course, of public safety, and that's the issue of education. The mayor in Philadelphia is not directly in charge of schools, unlike here in New York and Chicago and a number of other places. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania took over the school district in 2001, suspended the school board, which was all appointed by the mayor, and installed a school reform commission. 5 members, 3 appointed by the governor, 2 by the mayor. When I came into office, our high school graduation rate was 53%. Today, it's 65%. And while I'm not directly in charge of the schools, I've taken the position that these are my children here in this city. My daughter, of course, who is now here at Columbia, is a public school graduate, all 12 years in public school in Philadelphia. And so I've set a goal, even though I'm not directly in charge of schools, that we needed at least an 80% graduation rate in the city of Philadelphia. We've made some progress, but not enough. Also on that first day, I said that we needed to double our college degree attainment rate, which was 18% when I came into office. There's no reason why, given the fact that we have 101 colleges and universities in the tri-state area, that we shouldn't be up in the mid-30s, if not close to 40%. Today, we're at a little over 25%. Again, progress, but in my view, not enough. Philly ranks 71st out of the 100 largest cities in America for college degree attainment, nowhere near where we should be. And here's the challenge. Approximately 60% of the jobs in Philadelphia require some level of post-secondary education, but unfortunately, only 46% of our residents have either the degree or the skill training to get those jobs. And so obviously, we have to do everything in our power to ensure that young people, and those who are young at heart, have the education and the skills needed to be successful in the 21st century jobs market. Since the beginning of our administration, I've taken the position that we must support the funding of public education in our city for our students, for them, for our economy, and for the future growth of Philadelphia. Pennsylvania is one of only 3 states in the United States of America that does not use a student-weighted funding formula to distribute education funds. And education was the #1 issue in the governor's race last year in Pennsylvania. Something happened for the first time in Pennsylvania's history in the governor's race last year. Since the 1950s, when the law was changed, when governors could run for re-election, Pennsylvania has always re-elected an incumbent governor who ran for re-election, except last year. The issue of education, the cutting of $1 billion in public funding for education in Pennsylvania, upset the voters so much that they turned out an incumbent Republican governor running for re-election and elected Tom Wolf, the Democrat. His budget address was yesterday, and mine, if we don't get overwhelmed by about 8 inches of snow, will be tomorrow. The governor made bold announcements about putting $1 billion back into education over the course of the next year and $2 billion in funding over the next 4 years, and is a strong supporter of a student-weighted funding formula to equitably distribute funds to school children all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We have charter schools in Pennsylvania. Half of the charter schools in the state are in Philadelphia, with a formula that does not work and actually damages the financial integrity of our public education system for district-managed schools, because when students move around, the dollars literally follow them. But students don't leave in compact groups of 28 or 30 students from a school, where you would then see some level of cost reductions. They go 2 from this school, 3 from that school, 5 from that school, and so all the legacy costs are still there. You still have to heat the place, you still have to light the place, you still have to clean the place, and basically have the same number of teachers. And so it's a formula that is not sustainable and is actually damaging the financial integrity of the school district. I'm a strong supporter of high-performing charter schools. I'm a strong supporter of high-performing schools. Parents should have as many quality options as possible, but if the school is not working, is not educating a student, it doesn't matter whether it's managed by the district or a charter school or not, that's a school that shouldn't be open in the first place. And so we're very, very hopeful with the announcements by the governor yesterday and his proposals with regard to education that we will move things forward. In the meantime, through the Mayor's Office of Education, we've created any number of programs and services to help those who are 18, 38, or 81 to further their education if that's what they want to do. And I'll run through a few of these. We created the Philly Graduation Coach Campaign. We've trained 4,000 plus adults all across the city of Philadelphia to get engaged with young people, some of whom they may not actually know all of that well, or could be someone who lives down the block, to help that young person in middle school stay focused on getting to high school, filling out all their forms, and trying to then go on to college, 2-year, 4-year, or career and technical education program. Philadelphia is one of 7 cities in the country that is a U.S. 2020 STEM mentoring city in the United States, with a particular focus, obviously, on science, technology, engineering, and math. We had an announcement, I guess, 2 weeks ago about summer jobs and really trying to change the culture in Philadelphia. We put $7 million into our summer jobs program last year. A little over 8,100 young people had summer job opportunities, which is fantastic for them. Unfortunately, we had 18,000 applications. And so we're really trying to get our business community to focus on the issue of summer jobs, year-round jobs, mentorship, sponsorship, and really pay attention to what's going on in the lives of young people all across the city of Philadelphia. Let me talk about public safety, and then I know we're going to have a Q&A. As I mentioned, 2004, 2005, 2006, the homicide rate in Philadelphia was going up. In most other big cities across America, the numbers were going down. I said as a candidate, we can do better, we deserve better, and if you look at some of the other cities across America, we can actually do something about the issue of public safety. And we did. I knew going into office that I was going to need a new police commissioner. I was fortunate enough to be able to hire Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey. Started in Chicago, had been the Metropolitan Chief for about 10 years, and was available. He's deemed by his colleagues to probably be the best police commissioner in the United States of America right now. President Obama asked him to co-chair the 21st Century Policing Task Force, who just delivered their report to the President, I believe, on Monday. The issue of violence in our cities, which is a tragedy happening all across the United States, even though crime is down, every life matters. And unfortunately last year, even though we're at 30 to 40-year lows, the homicide rate in Philadelphia today is the lowest number we've had since 1967. We've had a 37% reduction in homicides during my time as mayor. But 248 people were murdered in my city last year. 248. 75% of whom were African-American males. 80% of the people that we arrested for homicide were African-American males. There is a serious violence problem in the United States of America. And we know that we're also suffering with challenges about policing and community views and values and how community and police work together. There has to be a bridge. There has to be a bridge and a conversation and a discussion. Law-abiding people want good police officers to show up if there is some issue, and good police officers want citizens to value their service. They literally put their lives on the line each and every day. Unfortunately, in my tenure, I have lost 7 police officers killed in the line of duty. In my first year in office, 4 police officers were killed in the line of duty in my first year. We believe in 2008, Philadelphia, unfortunately, may have had more police officers killed in the line of duty than any big city in the United States of America. And then 2 months later, into early 2009, another officer was killed. I've been to every one of those hospital rooms. I've seen families fall apart, lives damaged, and changed. Every hospital, every funeral. I've lost 4 firefighters killed in the line of duty in our city. A PGW worker killed in an explosion. One of our fleet management folks, literally a ladder malfunction, he fell, cracked his skull, and he died. And so our public employees are engaged in very serious work, and especially our uniformed services. And so the divide that has gone on for some time, it's not just Ferguson, it's not just Staten Island, and things happen in Philadelphia, and stuff happens in Cleveland, and everything is not down at the bottom of the TV on MSNBC and CNN. And brothers get killed every day, somewhere in this country, and other folks too. And so we have to come to grips with the issue of violence in this country. And whether it's day-to-day out on the street, mostly between civilians, or sometimes between civilians and police, or domestic violence in the house, or child sexual abuse in the house, there are issues of violence that we must come to grips with in the United States of America. And so again, I've used some examples of the circumstance and situation here in New York City. One of the most tragic days in American history, of course, was 9/11. On that day, 2,997 people in 3 different locations in New York, Swanksville, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. lost their lives. The next day, the President of the United States of America created the Office of Homeland Security. The governor of Pennsylvania at the time, Tom Ridge, was asked to take that new position to make sure that the homeland was secure. A year later, an actual Department of Homeland Security was created. A new agency was created, the Transportation Security Administration, which had never existed before, with an $8 billion budget. Equipment, personnel, everything they needed, because people wanted to be safe flying on an airplane. Well, I want to be safe flying on an airplane, but I'd also like to be safe walking down the street. And so we need a comparable response to the issue of violence on the ground as we focus on violence in the air or terrorists. It's not an either-or proposition. We actually can do both here in the United States of America. I want to be free. I want to be safe. I had a 3-year-old girl killed on the steps while she was getting her hair braided because 2 knuckleheads were in a gunfight, shooting up the block. A man was killed on the second floor of his bedroom in his house by wild bullet gunfire. A lady took a bullet in the shoulder from an AK-47 when someone decided to shoot up the street. And when these things happen, who do we call? 911. And we expect a police officer to go running into danger while the rest of us are going in the opposite direction. What we will not accept is bad policing. What we will not accept is abuse. What we will not accept is oppression. What we will not accept is profiling. But somewhere in the middle, there has to be an understanding that policing services are needed, oversight is required, leadership is paramount, and a bridging of that divide and an understanding that people want to be safe and officers want to be respected. That is the critical issue and challenge, I think, going on, one of them, in America today. And so, yes, as violence rates go down and as homicides go down, but for me, until they're at zero, we will never truly be free. We will never live up to the promise of what America is all about. And so the issues of violence, of course, are tied to the issues of poverty, are tied to the issues of education. The more people who are educated, the fewer people who are in poverty, the less crime you will have. Because people who are working and can see a future for themselves are not engaged in all this madness out in the street in the first place. But if you talk to some of these teenagers who don't think they're going to make it out of their 20s anyway, don't see a future for themselves anyway, they will make very, very different decisions than any one of us in this room would ever think about making. Because I never wondered whether I was going to be 25 years old. Never wondered. But there are a lot of people out there who do. And so these issues, as global as they are, and challenges of education, poverty, the environment, public safety, not only are the issues here in the United States of America, but when you talk to mayors all around the world, they will tell you the same things. These are the same issues and challenges. But I am optimistic because cities are coming back. We got hit rock hard by the recession, but cities are storming back. There are more people who live in cities today than virtually at any other time in the history of the world. New York City is a great city. I love New York. I just happen to love Philadelphia a little more. And so with that, I'd be pleased to take any questions that you might have. Thank you. No, yeah.
So for questions, please line up over here by the mics. And while everybody's lining up, I want to thank Mayor Nutter for really inspiring remarks. And I'll ask the first question. It seems to me you really sort of pinpointed the trifecta of challenges that cities have now around the environment, education, and public safety. When you think about the challenge of resources, putting on sort of a genie's hat, maybe, what do you think the role of the federal government should be in focusing on the challenge that cities are now facing almost by themselves?
So first, I mean, unfortunately, Philadelphia has the highest poverty rate of any of the top 10 cities. We're number one in a bunch of things. That's not one we're particularly proud of. There's no way in the world that our city by ourselves will be able to significantly move that number down. We've had some success in recent times. We have a plan, a full-blown plan, Shared Prosperity Philadelphia. But the role of the federal government, it should be crystal clear that they can actually do something in partnership with us about issues of poverty. They can actually do something with us on issues of public safety. They can do something with us on issues of at least setting new standards about where we should be trying to go related to education. And, I think, unfortunately, there is no worse example of what the federal government is up to than this past week's insanity with regard to the Department of Homeland Security. Who in their right mind would want to defund the Department of Homeland Security because you want to be in a political fight with President Obama about the issue of immigration. If you want to have an immigration fight, then introduce an immigration bill and have that fight over there. But why would you put the United States of America in that kind of peril in these times when we have enemies every day, literally, either trying to kill us or somebody else? And we look like idiots when we go through this kind of nonsense. I mean, we really look stupid. See, this is like, so we wrote this back home, right? And then this is the real part, right? And Desiree is very nervous, right? Because now I have no papers. I might say anything.
Say one thing to everybody as we start the questions. Please ask a question. So we have a lot of people who want to get a response from the mayor, and we don't have that much time. So please be gracious to everybody else in the room and ask a question.
And I'll try to give shorter answers, too.
You're from Philadelphia.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're all over the place. Yeah. Go ahead, sir. And I'll go back and forth. Yes. Yes,
On a
sir.
recent visit to Philadelphia, I was delighted to discover that public transportation for senior citizens was free.
Yes.
How is Philadelphia able to forego that revenue, and how did this come about, and what can you teach the leadership of New York about that issue?
I always love those questions, which I have no answer. But on the first part of it, so transportation in Philadelphia is provided by the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, SEPTA, SEPTA. So it's a regional transportation system, 5 different modes of transportation: bus, trolley, subway, and an elevated train, and regional rail. The state made a decision that senior citizens, during certain hours, will just ride for free. So, I mean, it's just the way it is. Thanks.
Welcome, Mayor Nutter. I was in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago at
Very
your Innovation Summit.
Yeah.
And I just have to congratulate you and say that what a great city, very
Thank
accessible.
you.
I'm a tech entrepreneur, created an app to aggregate
Come on
police,
back.
medical, so we have to talk definitely.
Absolutely.
My question is, why do you make yourself so accessible when it comes to tech and innovations and getting ideas?
Well, I mean, a part of it is I love what I do. I mean, this is, the Mayor Dings will tell you, I mean, this is the best job in America, right? So, I mean, I get to actually do real things. I mean, it goes back to my comment before. I mean, we're going to get a snowstorm. I can't pass a continuing resolution on whether we're going to move the snow or not, right? And make a speech at 2 o'clock in the morning for the folks on C-SPAN, for somebody halfway across the country to think that I'm doing something, right? I have, like, real work to do. So, I mean, we're focused on technology, and we're focused on, many of the things that young people like yourself are doing, because it brings jobs to Philadelphia. It brings more people to the city. It creates an environment where the companies are now chasing the talent. The more talent I have in the city of Philadelphia, the more engaged I am in that process, the more companies want to be in my city, the more people are working, the less crime I have, expand the tax base, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I also love what I do. So, yes, sir.
It's been said that there's no Republican or Democratic way of removing the garbage. Same
The great
thing-
mayor LaGuardia said that.
Sounds like
Yes.
him, yeah. But the same thing,
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes, sir.
the same thing with snow removal.
Yeah.
Curly of Boston said, God put it there and God will take it away. That's not too satisfactory.
Yeah, I'm not trying that one.
Why do we have to reinvent the wheel? How do they do it in Stockholm, in Moscow, in any one of a number of cities? I was told it's because in those places, the national government handles it and they can provide the taxes to pay
Yeah.
for it, and we can't. But I wonder what your answer is.
Well, my first answer is I'm not going to model anything I do after what they do in Moscow.
Stockholm. Take Stockholm.
Yeah, it's the first thing. Yeah, I mean, there's no way in the world that I'm going to comment on snow removal here in New York City. But the mayor will he will take care of it. So I'm going to keep responding. I have to take a photo with the mayor.
Keep asking the
Ask
question.
that question.
Okay, let me do this. Thank you. Our photographer's leaving.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. There you go.
So my name is Tony. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
But be more.
Yep. And I'm a student here at SEPA.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Philadelphia has been growing as a city for the past 7 to 8 years.
Yeah.
And that's something that Baltimore would like to emulate.
Sure.
Do you have any recommendations for Baltimore, for other historic legacy cities that for us to attract people and to retain them?
Yeah. So first, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake is a really, really good friend of mine. So we stay in touch on a regular basis. I think it's a part of it is what are your assets, right? So healthcare, education, medicine, huge assets for the city of Philadelphia. So I start with that as a base. 35% of the jobs in Philadelphia are tied to healthcare and medicine. So that's a sector that I've got to pay a whole lot of attention to. That's also a sector that creates jobs. Even through the recession, they never stopped their building projects. They actually already had their money from donors and kept right on going. But, I mean, there are a lot of jobs in those areas. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a scientist. I mean, they're, right? So figure out your base. And certainly down in Baltimore, I mean, you've got Johns Hopkins and a bunch of other things going on. The mayor has been addressing issues of public safety in a variety of ways, and I know they've had some gains down there. It's going to happen. I mean, it really is. And I mean, you're strategically situated. We're between, New York and Washington, D.C., Baltimore, pretty much the same, between Philly and D.C., and up and down this corridor, there are great, great opportunities. That turnaround is going to come to Baltimore. Thanks. Yes, sir.
Mayor, thanks. Terrific talk. I want to ask a question about education issues and challenges in Philadelphia, but I want to ask it through a health lens. And the question is about access to health care for children. And the reason I'm asking it around education is that we're finding here, we're working in 3 schools, low-performing schools in New York.
Yeah.
Enormous percentage of the kids are actually failing because they have vision problems never addressed, they have asthma, they have other chronic conditions, things we're calling health barriers to learning. So the silos between the healthcare and the educational sectors really have to be opened up so that there's a lot more integration. What is the situation with regards to healthcare access for poor children in your city?
Many of the same challenges. Because of cuts, counseling services have been cut back, nursing services have been cut back. I've got, John Bartram High School, 1,100 students. They have 2 counselors for all of those kids, 1 nurse. On a 5-day basis. We've got other schools that have nursing services every other day or 2 times a week. I mean, what happens on the day like the nurse is not there? Do you not get sick? I mean, that's crazy. So, I mean, having more site-based services, we're trying to figure out how do you put the services right in the school, right? That could be social service, that could be a probation officer, that's obviously counseling services and nursing services and the like, and fully integrate those activities, partnerships with our own health department, and again, the many colleges and universities that have nursing schools, they should do a part of their rotation through the school system in Philadelphia. And lastly, you didn't raise this issue, but I think tied into it is school libraries. I mean, we've had a number of our schools, their libraries are literally closed or they don't have a librarian. Now, all our city libraries are open, so we're also creating partnerships in that regard as well. But for us, it really is the underfunding of public education that is a contributing factor. But certainly asthma and diabetes, significant issues, especially in the African American population.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
Hey, good afternoon, Mayor Nother.
Hey,
my name's Brandon Primus. I'm a first year here at SEPA.
Okay.
And first, I want to thank you for your role in Weight of a Nation. That was a fabulous, powerful documentary.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, do you have any plans to expand your physical activity policy, specifically targeted towards lower socioeconomic and poor communities because of all the health disparities and cardiovascular diseases, just like you mentioned before, to complement your access to nutrition and your nutrition programs that you have? And if you do, I'd love to come down to Philly and help you out.
So one of the things, thank you, that was nice. You gotta give him credit. So one of the things that I'll mention that I should have mentioned earlier, there's an incredible project that is under construction right now in Philadelphia. Children's Hospital, which is generally considered the best children's hospital in the country, possibly in the world, they have partnered with us in a first ever model. So at Broad and Morris, down in South Philadelphia, where we already had a library and a playground. We demolished it, so, and it covers like a square block. We tore it all down. CHOP is building a health center, health and literacy center, which is then going to be adjacent to a brand new playground and a brand new library, all of which you will be able to access internally and never have to go outside for any of those services. And so this is a first of its kind in the United States of America. We're already in discussions about trying to create a second one. I think this will really change how we look. So it's about health, it's about literacy, it's about reading, it's about physical activity and nutrition, all in one place on one city square block. It is fantastic. So thank you. Yes.
Hey, good afternoon, Mayor Nutter. My name is Marek Weintrich. I am visiting scholar here working on research that basically measures how much of a global investment flows to which cities in the world, how much of the global investment, foreign investment, flows to which cities, and whether it is on basis of merits or consulting bias and so on. So my question would be, you mentioned that Philadelphia improved the global standing and market position and so on. Now, are you happy with the foreign direct investment flow to Philadelphia because it means jobs, it means more economic development? Or do you think Philadelphia could improve this part? Or where do you think Philadelphia locates there?
Clearly we could do more. You know, if anything, I feel, I mean, the recession, I mean, did a lot of things, but it really got in the way of doing a bunch of other things, right? So, I mean, you know, as the great philosopher king Mike Tyson said, you know, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And we really kind of got punched in the face by the recession. So my game plan was, first year, you know, kind of stay at home, learn the job, do the job, blah, blah, blah. Second year, you know, some national, international travel. Third year, some national, international travel. Fourth year of a, you know, the term, I mean, that's the election year, so, you know, kind of can't go anywhere. I did pretty much none of that for the first 3 years. And actually, my first international trip was to Brazil on a conference with EPA Secretary Lisa Jackson. And that wasn't until 2011. So then we had some catching up to do. We have a number of international sister cities. So Desiree and I and our economic development team, November 13, we go to the UK and Israel. We meet, you know, officials in London, Tel Aviv, our sister city, Jerusalem, and Bethlehem. Over a 10-day period, we had 50 meetings. Right? I've been to China, I've been to Paris, and a number of other places, literally just raising the profile of the city, but also with some measurables coming back. So I think earlier today, one of the UK companies that we saw when we were there just announced they're opening their US office in the city of Philadelphia. We just got our bike race upgraded to the World Women's Cup cycling series, the only city in the United States of America with that designation, because we have a great race, but we went to the Tour de France to talk to the folks over there. So, short answer, love more foreign direct investment, and I think Philadelphia is greatly poised for it. Probably weren't necessarily ready a few years ago. We're absolutely ready right now, and there's much more business to be done in the city of Philadelphia. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, for your speech. I appreciate it. My name is Mihir Awadi, and I'm a senior in Columbia College, and I come from Chicago, Illinois. And so we face many of the same issues that Philadelphia does, such as school reform, funding for schools, most notably crime, specifically on the south side. I know the mayor has tried to do a few things to help alleviate some of these problems. You mentioned how New York reducing crime was one way that you looked to another city to help you maybe build your policy. Do you think some things you've done or things other cities have done can maybe help Chicago improve some of these issues that we face?
Yeah, I mean, again, we share we share a lot of information. I think you know, some of the success that we saw in Philadelphia may have led the newly elected mayor, my friend Rahm Emanuel, may have led him to want to entice my police commissioner to go back home to Chicago. I fought valiantly against that, and we were successful. But, I mean, the chiefs, so Police Commissioner Ramsey is the most recent past president of the Major City Chiefs organization. The police chiefs talk like mayors talk all the time. So he knows all the chiefs all across the country. He talks to Gary, Chief Gary out in Chicago, who was in Newark with Mayor Cory Booker. So, you know, I mean, I think my recollection is Chicago last year, 14 compared to 13, actually had a reduction in homicides, and things are going in the right direction. But it has been tough, and a couple of those weekends, I mean, you get some people doing some pretty crazy stuff. The mayor, both of us were going through school closures last year. And, you know, we'd announce a bunch of school closures, then Chicago would announce a bunch of school closures. Chicago would announce some school closures, we'd announce some school closures. I would always thank Mayor Emanuel for getting me off the front page of the papers because, you know, he was, you know, dealing with that, and then I'd get back on the front page. So, I mean, again, a lot of sharing in these areas. Each city is unique, has its own challenges and problems, but I know for a fact that mayors are using each other's techniques and strategies all the time. Thanks. Yes.
Hi, my name is Andrew Pasquier. I'm sophomore in Columbia College. I'm from Philadelphia, so just last week I was on my Facebook and I saw Philadelphia Magazine had something talking about Philly's new boom, the Schuylkill Banks, Development Center City, Fishtown, all these really good things that are happening in Philadelphia. Right under it was the Enquirer's editorial saying, you know, reminding us that we're the poorest big city in America. And so I definitely think there's been a lot of emphasis and good emphasis on development in Philadelphia during your term.
Yeah.
Do you think that we should or will see kind of a similar shift of political debate like there's been in New York from we've been focusing a lot on development, maybe should we go back and look at some of these issues of poverty?
So, you know, short answer, we can do both. But it's not an either-or proposition. I mean, you need growth and development because ultimately, if you're going to get out of poverty, you need a job. And you need a skill set to be able to get that job. So, I mean, we should not take, you know, less focus on economic development and development activities at the expense of trying to fight issues of poverty. We have to do both. And one of the things that I will leave to my successor is Share Prosperity Philadelphia, an actual plan that, I mean, it is rock solid, it has been tested, it's actually, some of the things are actually working right now, and we've not had a full-blown plan to deal with issues of poverty, and it is my hope that whoever the next mayor is, I mean, you don't have to use all of it, and it's not an ego thing, it's just, it's here. Use it, and focus on that issue. We will not ultimately be the even better city that we can be if we don't reduce poverty in Philadelphia. And it's not just in recent times. Unfortunately, we've been over 20% for the last 30 years. So it is deeply entrenched, it is intergenerational. A lot of folks have lost hope, and we have to give them that hope back, that there is something out there for them. And so I think it really, you have to do both.
Thank you.
Thanks, sure. Yes, sir.
In regard to public safety,
yeah.
In wake of the issues that have incidents that have happened with police in fatally shooting, how would you address the lack of homegrown police officers coming from the communities where they would be walking the beat? How would you attract people from those communities to join the police force, and how would you see that impacting those communities?
Well, a couple things. I mean, I think people have to truly see that there is support for police officers. I mean, again, you put on a uniform, you are risking your life for the safety of others. Is it valued in the community? How do you encourage, especially, and again, I don't want to get into too many specifics about what's going on in New York. I don't know the racial makeup of the department. I would like to think that it's, you know, relatively comparable to the racial makeup of the city. But I mean, I think people have to be inspired to do police work. I mean, it's not just something you wake up one day and say, hey, I want to be a police officer. I mean, and part of how you do that, I think, is at the youngest ages. You know, kids, young people should see a police officer, see a firefighter, see a sanitation worker, see a health worker. I mean, whatever it is that you want to be. It's about exposure. But you can be inspired to pursue those particular professions, and then the people who are doing the job need to back up and support. When someone does a good job, they should be commended. When someone really messes up or does something, you know, I mean, serious discipline, termination, whatever the case, or it could be criminal. I mean, and it needs to be followed up. And so, I mean, I think people need to see the profession for what it is, which is desperately needed. In Philadelphia, at least, until a most recent arbitration ruling, all city employees have to live in the city of Philadelphia. And there were an arbitrator ruled for police officers and firefighters, after a certain amount of service, they can technically move out of the city. Very few of them have done that. But I think you want people who are totally, completely invested in the place where they work, in the communities that they serve, to be engaged in that kind of work. And then, I mean, obviously leadership has to come from the top, both the mayor and the police commissioner and a bunch of other folks down the line, to, again, remind officers, we appreciate you, we recognize that you have a tough job, but they also have to treat citizens properly with dignity and fairness. Everyone is due dignity and fairness in the course of that job. Thanks. Yes, sir.
I'm a faculty member here at SEPA.
Okay.
Two very quick questions. Given that you have one city that has made Pennsylvania notorious around immigration, how has immigration influenced the growth?
I think I didn't hear that one. Made Pennsylvania the what?
There's the city that made it illegal to rent houses to undocumented. That's in western Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So the
okay.
question is,
okay.
so you have a negative image out there. The question is, the growth, the positive things you described, how has immigration influenced that?
Yeah.
Second, with the possible, and with even currently with Booker's exception, if being a mayor is such a great job, why don't mayors go on to become national elected figures?
I'm going to love that. So on the first question, so and I'm aware of that situation in another part of Pennsylvania. I've taken a position, you know, unless you're a Native American, everybody is an immigrant in the United States of America. Everybody came from somewhere else, and no one's really leaving. So we need to figure out how to get along. The second is, I mean, you know, this is a nation of immigrants, built by immigrants, made great by immigrants, and so now all of a sudden, you know, some geniuses in Washington, D.C. think that we're going to put a big fence up and keep a whole bunch of folks out, or in even more crazy fashion, that we're suddenly going to send 11 million people back because we haven't figured out the paperwork. I mean, that's just dumb. So the issue is, how do you give people a path to citizenship, play by the rules, pay whatever you need to pay, document whatever you need to document, and move on with life? So I've taken the position that, A, we're going to be a much more immigrant-friendly city. The first part of the answer to your question is, our population growth has come primarily in 3 ways. Largest percentage increase of millennial population growth of any major city in the United States of America. That's one. 2, immigrant population from all over the world, because we made Philadelphia a more immigrant-friendly city, and I'll come back to that. 3rd, empty nesters. People in the suburbs, big house, big lawn, 3-story homes, kids are gone, can't mow the grass, tired of dealing with snow. I'm spending all my time in Philadelphia. I'm going to the movies, I'm going to shows, I'm going to restaurants, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got to drive 45 minutes. Forget that. Why don't I just stay here and get rid of my car because I can walk everywhere? That's where our growth has come from. I signed an executive order saying that, you know, it is not my job to do immigration department's job, right? So I'm not trying to figure out what your status is other than if you're a criminal. Other than that, I've ordered every department and agency in the city government, if someone is here, they get service. Second, we have to communicate with people in more than 2 languages. And so we require all departments to produce materials in about 10 to 12 different languages across the city. Our 311 system, much like New York, we have a contract. We can communicate with you in 150 different languages if you call us and need service, because you called us because you need service, because we're a service organization. That's our job, right? So when Arizona had their craziness out there about immigration, what did I do? I held a naturalization ceremony in the middle of Ben Franklin Parkway, closed 2 blocks of the Parkway, had 39 people newly become citizens on a big platform, put up 19 new national flags, and said, take that, right? And so we do big ceremonies about naturalization. If you've not been to a naturalization ceremony, you should go. It is one of the most powerful, emotional experiences you will ever have. You know, I was never asked, would I pledge to take up arms if called upon? I was never asked, would I renounce all kinds of things because I was, you know, I got lucky. I was born at Misericordia Hospital at 53rd and Larchwood. No one asked me anything, right? I'm here, I got all the rights, everything else. Everyone else has got to fight their way, persecuted from wherever they were, just to become an American citizen. So, you know, we should lighten up a little bit. So, you know, and then, so what was the second part of your thing? Oh, go on to, yeah, well, you know, there's an assumption that that's actually higher office. It's just a different office, right? I get to do something every day that affects someone's life. I get to, you know, it's like the shot clock in basketball, right? You put up the ball, it hits the rim, you get another 24 seconds. I get another 24 hours every day to make somebody's life better. So I'm not, and no disrespect to people in the state and the feds, and all, very interesting. They pass a lot of laws. They send money. They don't send money. They do whatever it is they do. I know when I go home tonight, someone's life is going to be better because of what we are doing on the ground. That's a lot of philosophy up here. I am in reality. I will have to move the snow tomorrow, and no one is going to call a member of Congress about anything related to that, or if somebody gets shot. They're going to call me. I love this job. So, yes, sir.
In literally 5 minutes. So this
okay,
one
this will be the lightning round.
Everybody to do lightning round. Just quickly ask your question, and then Mayor Nutter will take whatever he can from the questions and wrap it up. And then we have a wonderful reception after.
Ah, like that.
Incentive.
Yes.
So my name is Anton. I'm a senior here at Columbia. From Sweden, actually moving to Philly now. Afterwards.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Afterwards, but I wanted to briefly ask you. You talked a lot about. I understand you ran the Conference of Mayors at one point.
U.S. Conference of
You're
Mayors.
very involved with the C40. You talked a lot about sharing between New York,
I went
Philly,
to the
and other
C40.
cities. What role do you see these intercity networks playing, and what direct effect do they actually have on Philadelphia? Do they amount to anything?
So yes, I did. I went to C40 last year. Okay, so I got that. I'll try to remember that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for being here. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how your administration has created and preserved affordable housing in Philadelphia, even while the population is growing and you're seeing overall demand for housing supply increasing.
Got it. Affordable housing. Networks. Affordable housing. I'm listening.
Okay. My name is Angela Mills. My question is about, you're familiar with Rashida Ali Campbell, who is the executive director of Love Loving Love. She's building the Earthships in West Philadelphia, which are the homes made of recyclable materials.
Yes.
My question to you is, does the Office of Sustainability have plans to help her expand moving forward if she is successful? And the second question, really quick, I just wanted to know, how can we in New York City help Greenworks Initiative in Philadelphia?
Okay.
Meaning, i.e., I will come down there and help.
Yeah, okay, all right. I thought that's what you were saying.
My name is Jason, a visiting scholar from China. Now, my question is related to China. A lot of China mayors care about the problem. The big problem is land acquisition.
Yes.
So because they need a lot of land to develop public facilities. Do you face such kind of problems? Could you give some advice to solve this problem? Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Nutter.
Hey.
I'm Mutala Faye, and as a Philadelphia native and former employee of the Philadelphia School District, a lot of these issues are very close. I wanted to ask you, how do you prioritize the trifecta of problems, considering their urgency and the limited resources that we have in Philadelphia between public safety, education, and poverty?
Thank you. Okay, so first question, if I got it right, it was a question about all the different networks that, I belong to, a lot of different things. I went to C40 last year. Mayor Bloomberg was there in South Africa. I think, it's C40, it's U.S. Conference of Mayors, it's the National League of Cities. I mean, we worked, Desiree and I and our chief of staff back home created Cities United, focused on violence for African-American men and boys. 62 mayors are a part of that. This is a business of relationships. It's a business of information sharing. We learn from each other. We make these connections and actually help each other through our work. I don't do all this stuff by myself. I mean, we've got 27,000 total employees in the city of Philadelphia. The New York Police Department is bigger than my entire public employee base back home. So small, medium, and large, it's just a matter of how many zeros are behind whatever it is that you're talking about. But we go to these meetings, we engage in these conferences, we talk to each other and get information that I can then translate back home. So you're doing stuff here in New York City that maybe I can't in a cookie cutter fashion take it and place it in Philadelphia, but it's this idea, and there's a thing out of Chicago, and then Mayor Mitch Landrieu in New Orleans is doing something. I dealt with a problem that I had in Philly based on something I learned from Mayor Villaraigosa in Los Angeles one time when we were having flash mob challenges a few years ago. I took his idea, turned it around in the city of Philadelphia, and so that's what we do. That's how we grow, that's how we learn, and we use these ideas in different ways. So, affordable housing, that was, I think, over here. Yes, young lady over there. Affordable housing has continued to be a challenge for us at some level because of cuts to the CDBG program from time to time, but also working with developers. We've actually put something in our zoning code, I think, again, somewhat similar to what you have here in New York City, which is a lot of high-end stuff getting built. But we will give you extra, I think it's called FAR, points if you have affordable units as a part of your development. I think there's more that we can do in that regard, and obviously our real estate market is starting now to come back after the recession. But I think it's going to be a combination of the federal and state dollars and the private sector really working together to figure out how you have a more integrated affordable housing strategy, and not just, well, here's all the affordable housing over here, and here's your high-end stuff over here. I mean, you really have to have mixed income development in a variety of places all around the city. And I think lastly, one of our challenges is, how do you make affordable housing affordable and buildable from a cost standpoint? So that's our challenge. Earthships. If you want to come to Philly and work with us on Greenworks, love to have you. Just jump right on Amtrak. We're about an hour down the road. I don't have any specific information with regard to the Office of Sustainability and their work, or whether they're working with Earthships or not. But if you give me your contact information, I can make that connection. Okay? China. So in December of 2012, I went to China to speak. I was halfway through my tenure as president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Former Treasury Secretary Paulson asked me to come and make a speech in Beijing. Tianjin is a sister city to Philadelphia, so I went, and then we did a whole bunch of other stuff. Two things with I met both mayors in both cities. So we have a lot of land in Philadelphia, not particularly really a challenge for us, but issues of infrastructure, the environment, air quality, water quality, and systems were big issues that the mayors were talking about. And one of the huge differences was that they get measured on gross domestic product growth. I don't. Right? I get measured on crime. I get measured on employment. No one in Philadelphia, and I'm sure no one here in New York City, is asking Mayor de Blasio, well, what was the GDP growth last year? So it creates a tremendous amount of pressure on the mayors for that growth, which in many instances is not sustainable and is damaging your environment in a variety of ways. And so I was really surprised they were asking me that question, because that, to some extent, comes down from the federal government, and they were almost kind of pushing back on that issue. And so the decisions you make about GDP are not necessarily the best interest of your citizens, and I think they're going through that struggle right now. So, last question, the three problems. How do I allocate my time? So I think one of the biggest challenges for a mayor is, you want to do, it's not like we do public safety on Monday, and then we do water service on Tuesday, and then we give you, libraries on Wednesday. All this stuff goes on all day long, right? The only way that I can do my job is to have really great people doing their jobs and inspire them to come into public service. We agree on what the charge is, let them do their job, get out of the way, and back them every step along the way. So I'm not doing all of this stuff. How do I spend most of my time? Focus on public safety, focus on education, focus on jobs. That's what I do, because those three things are really tied together, and then everything else is just, you know, just happens. I have really great people. So, thank you.
I think this was the best forum we've had from the beginning. You were really spectacular. Everybody is invited for a reception out in the back, and just thanks again to Mayor Nutter for coming to New York. We really appreciate it.
You guys make me feel